marka waxaynu ku bilaabaynaa Dr. Husein Bulhan ku soo dhaweynaa mikrofoonka inuu isagu presentation-kiisa inoo sameeyo. Husein Bulhan.
kulley af Soomaali ayaa loo badan yahay laakiin se waxaan filayaa dad martiina waa joogaan marka bal af Ingiriisi baan anu tayda ku dhiibaya si maxaan ku ilaaha martiduna at least af Soomaaligu ku badan. I want to thank, to begin with, the organizers of this conference and for the excellent way they have really struggled to bring us here, many of us from different places. Certainly I know those of us who came from Somaliland, that they have done a remarkable effort in bringing us here with all the difficulties for some of our members in getting visas these days. It has taken them a long effort, and as you know, quite a number of them couldn't make it because of the unfortunate world situation, and also coming from Somaliland with all the difficulties that you know. In any case, for those of us who are here, and on behalf of them, I want to thank the organizers of this conference and for the effort they have put into bringing us here. I'm also very pleased to see old friends, people who I have been here, with whom I have been here in the States for the 30 years I spent in the States as a student, as a professor, as a doctor, as an owner of a business in Washington, D.C. Some of you do not know that, perhaps. I've spent 30 years of my life both as not only as a student but also as a beltway bandit in Washington, D.C. and around it. So today I come as a resident of Somaliland, having spent now 30 years. For those friends of mine who know me, who have known me here in the States for many years, don't be deceived by my looks. I have been here in the States. Why I came to the States? Because I had forgotten it for some time. On the day I was sent to school, an uncle of mine, first my mother sent me to primary school. I was the age of 5 in a Quranic school, and I was making my own ink in the ground with a chalk and a rock sitting on the sand. And I saw two friends of mine, two students of mine. My father died when I was young. And two friends of mine were sent to school. They came from school, they were wearing a little uniform, they had a couple of books, and I said, no, I'm not going to sit on the ground, I want to be like that. So I ran home, talked to my mother, and I said, I want to go to school. And she said, no, you can't go to school because that school is a Christian school and they will convert you to Christianity. I said, no, but I want to go to school because primarily for me, school meant going to, have a really nice uniform. I'm getting a desk, a table. I insisted, and finally I told her, in the afternoon I'm going to go to the madrasa where we can learn Arabic and Quran and all of that. And in the morning, I will go to government school. Finally, she said, and she had one quality which had made big contribution in my life. When I was determined, she would say, go ahead and do it on your own, without my help, if you can do it. So she said, no, I'm not going to take you to school. You find somebody who could put you to school. God will ask them, not me. Go ahead. So I went to a restaurant that I know where some elders sat, and they were playing their various games. So I said as a young boy, I want to be taken to school. They were playing their own little cards, and eventually one of them said, "Ina Abdullah, other Mahadonisa, what do you want?" I said, "I want to be taken to school." He said, "Tomorrow morning." He's a truck driver. He's never been to school. Never been to school. He said, "Tomorrow morning, you come to that marketplace and I shall take you there." In the morning I came, and the man had bought me two blue books and a pencil, and he was waiting for me. He took me on the truck and he put me to school that morning. That was the last time I saw Safar Abdi. His name was Safar Abdi. That was the last day I saw him. Went to school, getting grades 111, all the point where I graduated and got my degree. And when I was a professor at Boston University, given tenure for life, I was teaching a class in psychopathology, 150 students listening to me. This course I taught several times. And suddenly the question that hit me was, why did Safar Abdi put me to school? Was his point that I become a tenured professor and stay and teach at Boston University? Was that his point? On that, the next day, I resigned from my professorship at Boston University and carried on Safar Abdi's mission, which was Safar, on track. And I went back to Somaliland. I completed the circle. I don't want to take too much time. I completed the circle. Where I started, I was back. Where I started, I was back. And that completion of the circle itself is important. For me, at least, it is important that I completed the circle and I understood why Safar Abdi put me to school. Well, I want to say, after 10 years of Somaliland, I remember the days when, in fact, going back was so difficult. It really was very difficult because I became so used to the States and life here, the comfort, that to go back was a bit difficult, but now to get out has been very difficult. To come back was very difficult. Given time, what I'd like to say to you briefly, probably, I wish we had more time, is I'd like to talk, if I find the time, about the problem of madness, the various pressures that put people in Somaliland and outside of it to a state of madness, makes madness as a escape from very difficult problems in life. And what does a clinician do with this situation? I would have liked really to talk to you about it. I would have liked to talk to you about the various struggles, noble struggles people carry on. The mother who lost, the widowed mother who lost her husband, who has her own children, who has no education, no employment, and yet carries on a valiant struggle in Somaliland today to bring up children. I would have wanted to tell you her story. I would have wanted to tell you the story of the fighter risked his life, lost maybe a limb for liberty, but today is in Somaliland, unemployed, uncared for, unremembered. I want to tell you the story of children no schools, no homes, and by the estimate of everyone, no future. But they are there, and they shall be there. I wanted to talk to you about that and the addictions it represents. I don't have time. But to give time to my friends, I want to tell you first of qat. Qat has different types. There's the dalar, there's the awadai, the muspar, kubra, cruise, the cruise, multiple other types. And the various costs, the money that's spent on it, by estimate. For instance, I'll give you quickly, just quickly. Daily imports of qat. He actually broke it down into awadai, dadaran, and so on and so forth. I don't have time to explain to you. Daily import of qat of all types to the city of Hargeisa is 16,000 mardoofs. Only those who chew qat know what mardoof is, the currency of mardoof. Afar michod we mardoofku, we kilo mardoofku. It's 1 kilo of qat. 1 day of mardoof, Chad, $117,600 in Hargeisa. In Bur'o, $73,281. In Berbera, $20,148 daily of qat is consumed in these 3 cities. For the 3 cities, daily it's $211,000. When you put that weekly, it's $1,477,218. Monthly, it's $6,330,937. Annually, for the 3 cities, basically it's anywhere from 75 million to 104 million. It's a huge sum of money that goes into Somaliland, spent. A huge. The Somaliland budget annually is 28 million. It's the biggest industry. It is the biggest industry. In many ways, it also creates, as you know, I don't need to tell you, many of the problems it creates in terms of health, productivity, family issues, and so on and so forth. On the other hand, for those who, we cannot just simply moralize. We can't moralize things. You have to look, why do people stay and use this? It's not merely a question of addiction. There's something that people get from this. And what they get is, in the context of war, depression, unemployment, a whole host of problems, it also serves some function for the community in many ways. And those functions have to do, but by the way, it's a crimeless addiction. Qat is not like alcohol or other drugs. It doesn't create crimes. By the end of 4 or 5 hours, somebody chews qat, he's more scared about threats around him than he creates problems for others. That's not true. And so what happens, basically, there's a cycle. I really would have wanted to tell you about the relationship of this whole and the shahad and the dynamics of the morning and of the afternoon and of the evening. All of these are rhythms of life that take place in the morning, in the hunt for the michin and what it takes, you see. But the hunt of the michin, in the morning when you go, and you're looking for that at 3 or 9 o'clock in the morning if you wake up early enough. By the way, shahad is the most difficult job in the world, I know. In Canada, somebody told me and said, oh, shahad, I hate the country because no more. I mean, I am tired of the shahad. I said, by the way, what do you do in Canada? 80% of you live on shahad. How many of you work abroad? The shahad comes around. It goes from Canada, from Europe, and it goes, and the various remittance companies are part of the shahad business. They carry the money, they bring it, and once they bring it to Ali Umar, then everybody stands behind and says, Ali Mhadi noise amatade. Michinti mumkin. So the man who is really in the morning in the hunt for shahad, at 9 o'clock when I see him, it's very easy to, hi, assalamu alaikum, Mhadi noise, da, da, da. It's easy to dispense with him because he still has 2 hours to make the hit. Therefore, he is very charming at that point. And he will explore, but he is not insistent. He's not rude. He's not rushed. And once it gets 10 o'clock, you see his job is, unlike employment, he has no office. And he has no salary that is set. He has only 3 hours, 2 hours perhaps, in which he has to make the hit. Get the michin, get something for his family. And what is worse, it's unpredictable whom he will meet and where. And everyone he meets, he has to have a special song for him, created right then and there. You see, it's a very creative process. The one I fear always is not the one at 9 o'clock, not the 10 o'clock, the one I see after 11 o'clock. That one. And by 12, anyone I see at that point, I give up whatever I have. By 11:30, 12:30, I borrow for him. I borrow money. Because I know what it really takes. Anyway, now you bring that guy, whether he got it in 3 o'clock, 9 o'clock, whatever. By the time they come to the afternoon qad is useless if you just sit alone and eat and drink, chew and drink. You have to have a crowd. The gathering, there's a floor. You see, it's a democratic qad. There's no somebody who sits on a chair, up high up. Everybody's in the ground. So you all sit together, and by the way, there's no ticket for it. Any mafresh you want, you can walk in. Nobody tells you to leave, you see? So you come and you sit. The mechanic is arguing with the surgeon about how the heart operates. And it's allowed, you see? And I have seen enough surgeons that have been actually made ignorant about how the heart works by a mechanic. Right in the gut. And so what happens is the first hour is the qarhis hour. Everybody has won the day. He has the michin with him. And it is loud and crowd and everybody is speaking at the same time. This is a victory moment. Okay? You can't, anybody who comes says this is a madhouse, man. But it's not a madhouse if you have your michin with you. It's the victory moment. Everybody shouts, and then once people start chewing, then things calm down. Anyway, this is a whole process I wanted to tell you. All right, time limited. What I wanted to say then, maybe I can summarize what I want to say in a couple of poems that I wrote in English. One is we are a nomadic society, you see. A nomadic society, pastoral society traditionally. And recently I was writing about, my own struggle to understand. I really, honestly, the last 10 years, I went to the best school. Not Harvard. Hargeisa was my best school. Because I learned so much. Believe me, I learned so much. And I was looking at Max Weber and his classical book on Protestant ethic and the spirit of capitalism, which is that classical book, And he talks about the Protestant ethic and how industrialization, capitalism had started, so on and so on. I read it, way back. I went back and I came up with something called the pastoral ethic. The pastoral ethic totally has nothing to do with this world. It is a whole another thing. That's another discussion. The pastoral ethic. The pastoral ethic says, number one, if you want to understand people, it's your clan, number one. Clan. Your clan identity. Clan identity. A whole series of ethics, and I don't want to take too much time on that. Pastoral ethic, I will leave it alone. The nomad, I wanted to say, the lament of the nomad. Lament of the nomad. You know his difficult life, the nomad. Huh? Whosoever says this is not hell is both a fool and not so well. I trek the dry and desolate land where there is not a helping hand. I keep company of endless throbbing pain, but I celebrate all life, even spittle of rain. I know my land and my destiny, but I lost my people and progeny. They moved to town for better life, they even misled my gorgeous wife. In great haste they rushed headlong towards hell where they do not belong. I told them all my ancestors taught me, but they neither heed nor care to see. The new slave is a consumer or political clown. He casts liberty for bogus pleasure of town. Nothing will free him from his sturdy chains, for he knows no dignity nor life's true strains. Ancestors' blessings had power in the past, but he wants fast money that does not last. He devours his own for heaven's false ticket. He sells his soul for imported glossy trinket. He burns trees, kills all life, acting so cruel. He takes his ancestors' bones as fossil fuel. Whosoever says my life is not hell, whosoever says my life is not real hell, should know today I am an empty shell, left nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. For death I yearn with the swift angel's ride, to take me at last to my ultimate destiny. So I join my ancestors, forgetting my progeny. One other one about just the war, the various problems, the realities that people live, and the situation of children. I did a study on trauma on children in Hargeisa. But out of that, when I looked at the data, the kids are angry, they don't understand what is happening. They have even forgotten how to play because, the troubles of life are really bothering them. Father has no job. Mother is struggling to keep the children fed. And father, I know, has not abandoned his family. He just simply does not have a means to keep them going. So in some instances, you see, there was one time, as so happens, a patient was brought to me, and there were three guys who brought him along. I don't know them, and they're waiting for me in front of my house. And this man, these three guys I didn't even know. So they said, you know, we brought this guy, he's having all the difficulties, and they're explaining everything. So I'm listening. Eventually I turned to him and I said, so what's the problem? And he says, ask them, not me. I said, but you heard what they said, you know, all about. So he said, all they said about you, you heard. And he said, take it just the way they said. I said, but you gave up. This is your life. They're telling me something. What about your situation? And the guy says, I don't have anything to tell you. They tell me, go and see your children. Yes, I have children. I have a wife. But every time I go, I have nothing to offer them. Not even food. I can't pay their rent. It's too painful to see them. Why do I have to go and see them? It hurts them that they see me in the condition I am. I thought the best thing I can do for them is so they never see me again, at all. So I said to these guys, let's get together tomorrow. I will treat this guy free. I'll provide him the medicine. I'll give him my time. Can you prepare for the day, hopefully not too far, when he can help his family? In order for that, the three of you get together, plan some business for him, something he can do once he gets well. They said, okay, fine. Tomorrow you come up with a project, and I will come up here, providing him the treatment. The next day I didn't see them. A month or so later, right in the city of Hargeisa, I saw the guy walking. And anyway, when I saw him, I stopped, talked to him, and he said, you remember me. I saw you from a distance. You remember me. You stopped for me. Yes, I did. He said, you gave them the worst test they did not expect, that they do something. They wanted to drop me there, perhaps in chains, and they leave. Anyway, this is the kind of situation. The children. The child of Hargeisa. This is the child of Somaliland. The child of Somaliland, inheritor of our wars and rancor, victim of our destructive impulse. You live in the midst of rubble. You witness our follies and foibles and wonder if life is eternally so wretched, adults hopelessly so violent and foolish. Your dreams have turned to nightmares, your hopes taste rotten and rancid, terror is your companion, boredom your last refuge. You gave up the joys of play, you drown in waves of pain, and wonder if misery is your lot forever, sadness in the cosmic order. The child of Somaliland, inheritor of our wars and rancor, victim of our destructive impulse. Your cities were once hub of culture, nerve center of poetry and commerce. Your history carried no shame till graveyards dotted our landscape. Your ancestors stood proud and tall, knowing the blessings of accepting yourself. But you don't know who you are, nor where to go, while we self-medicate in bundles of qat. One day we shall free ourselves from costly habits, imported arms, crazy monologues, torrents of lies, and build for you a hearth of love, erect for you schools congenial to the mind, with libraries and playgrounds. The child of Somaliland, inheritor of our wars and rancor, victim of our destructive impulse. I yearn and wait for the night when I shall hold you on my lap, in the warm breeze outside, with the stars twinkling high above, and tell you forgotten tales of laughter, sing for you lyrics of eternal love. Last, and I get out of here. last one, are the lessons learned. Are the lessons learned. When I think of the past 1,000 years ago, I remember the dark days of tyranny and injustice. When I listen to the wind, 1,000 heartbeats later, I hear the anguish cries of those abused in torture cells. When I examine the trees 1,000 blinks after, I discover on them evidence of men shot in succession. When I explore the sand 1,000 grains apart, I find the rusted shells of bombs hurled with hate. When I glance at the landscape 1,000 feet apart, I see the unnamed graveyards of civilians long forgotten. When I think ahead of the future, when I think ahead to the future, 1,000 nightmares yonder, I shudder at the thought of the past repeating itself. Thank you.
Wow, wow, wow. وعدنا كدعي. That's beautiful. Beautiful. waxaa fiicnaan lahayd inaynu maalintoo dhan aynu Dr. Husein Bulhan dhageysanaan u malaynayaa nasiib darro waqtigii baan hayaa